Welcome to the next episode of Wine Wizzo. This should be episode number 4, episode number 5, depends on how things are progressing. I've got a very, very special guest with me today, Mr. Stepan Marhoul, who's a dear friend of mine. And check this out. This gentleman over here has 22 years of experience in hospitality, including Michelin starred and San Pellegrino World's 50 best restaurants, 5-star international hotel brands covering Czech Republic, Denmark, United Kingdom, Mexico, and sunny Singapore. He's worked with some of the best and greatest culinary legends that you can imagine, served presidents and kings, and now he's at Unlisted Collection, which has 27 boutique hotels and restaurants in London, Shanghai, Sydney, and of course, my favorite, Singapore to date. So let me introduce you to my dear friend Stepan. How are you doing today?
Thank you very much. Thank you, Charlie. That was an amazing introduction. I feel like I'm going on a stage and then receiving an award for
yes, you
something.
Are. For, just being super enough to be on my show, mate. You deserve an award for that.
Oh, yeah. It's my pleasure. It's really a great thing you're doing over there, and I'm happy to be part of it. So thanks for having me.
My pleasure, Stepan. I'm sure like the burning question I really have that I've always been meaning to ask you, but I've never really done so is, how did you get into hospitality?
So for me, it was rather natural step into an industry that sort of runs in the blood of my family. I'm the sort of third generation hospitality professional. My great granduncle was on a cruise ships back in 70s and sailed the world since I'm from Czech Republic, as we've already established.
Yes.
It was very difficult back then under Czechoslovakia to even leave the country, never mind sailing. So he did that, and he's quite legend in the family. My dad is educated as a chef, then studied hotel management school, became hotelier, and run restaurants and hotels. So we've always had guests in our house, and my parents were always entertaining someone. It felt like we were running small little bed and breakfast already. So it was natural for me ever since I could walk that there was a big table, someone coming, the table needed to be set, and something was cooking in the kitchen. So I kind of grew up with people around our family a lot and my parents entertaining. So it sort of progressed into, okay, what do I do next? I was also contemplating with becoming a football player, but actually the hospitality grew a lot closer to my heart. So I actually followed the route of my dad. So educated chef and waiter, followed through hotel management school, and then since 18, literally left Czech Republic and then worked across the globe and worked in hospitality ever since.
And where did you go to? Where was your first place after Czech Republic?
UK to start with, and then North America, Central America, back to Europe, Denmark, back to UK, worked for Gordon Ramsay a couple of years, then done a project in Prague, so that was sort of a little homecoming. And then from there I got offer from André Chang to open under Unlisted Collection his back then sort of one high-end restaurant, which then grew to 4 different restaurant concepts. And then 4 years ago, I was offered to look after the restaurant operations of André Chang's majority shareholder, Mr. Loli Pang, who is our managing director, to oversee the restaurant operations in Singapore, and been doing that for the last 4 years.
Wow. And how does it make you feel to be doing this?
Living a dream. It's like when you're a child and you think, so when I was 11, I was always telling myself, when I grow up, I want to travel the world, speak different languages, see different countries, and be able to do, what essentially my parents do, but on much larger scale. And now when I look back, I've done exactly that. So, great satisfaction. But as it is, it's sort of rabbit hole. The deeper you get, the more you realize that how little you know, so you want to learn more. So it's sort of never-ending development, involvement, and we learn the landscape is changing, the trends are changing. So it gives me an opportunity to really pick up every day, every week, every month, every year a new skill, meet exciting, equally passionate people like yourself. And that's the nice perk of hospitality. It may not be the most exciting in terms of packages and in terms of office environment spaces, but we get to taste some really good stuff that other people
can only dream of.
Can only dream of.
Yes.
And we get to travel. I mean, the world is our palm. I mean, look where you are, and then here we are having this conversation. So that's the upside of hospitality, which keeps me in, and I can't imagine doing anything else.
It sounds like amazing. It sounds like you really enjoy the curiosity, the adventure of it, the unknown, the sensations. Like you really,
Absolutely.
Yeah, it really comes off that you love what you do. Hey, I just wanted to ask you something interesting, because you talked a little bit about trends and how they have constantly evolved. What do you think it's been one of the biggest changes since you first started to what you're doing today in the hospitality world?
I understand.
Yeah.
It became a lot more accessible, lot more approachable, lot more relaxed, lot more personal, and also a lot more niche. So back in the day, not even 20 years ago or 25 years ago when I started, or when my sort of initial entry point was to hospitality, but even 10 years ago, you would say, there is a great chef, or what's his cuisine? And you would say, well, it's Spanish, it's Japanese. It was very defined, categorized, labeled, done. And you knew exactly what you're going to expect. If it's Italian chef, then it's going to be pizza, pasta, and some version of regional Italian, right? Cuisine, but no more to it. Now it got a lot more defined. And instead of defined by a country of origin, it just became personal to the chef. So depends on the journey of the chef, being maybe born in one country, but actually traveled through different region. He picked up along the way certain skills and techniques. So there is still this sort of cross-reference to French cuisine in terms of technique or structure, but there is a lot more in terms of ingredients, as well as individual style, a lot more personal reference in each chef. So for example, in Unlisted Collection, we have Chef Ivan, who is originally from Brazil, but trained in UK, however, works with some of the French techniques, but essentially his cuisine is what he calls the crossroads, which means sort of different countries meet, and
everybody comes together, right? Yeah,
exactly. And that togetherness is actually the definition of his concept. Andre Chang had his Octa philosophy. Rishi, one of our Michelin chef restaurant as well. He is basically combining the background of being from Sri Lanka as well as growing up in Australia. So then it just becomes a lot more exciting, a lot more personal, and people coming to the venue have this unique experience that they're not going to have anywhere else. They can go to other so-called modern Australian restaurant, but it's not going to be...
it's not Rishi's story. Yeah.
It's not Rishi's story at all.
Exactly.
So visiting sort of the modern chefs is almost like visiting your best mate's house, where he will cook what he is comfortable with and what is his story. And you will taste that story on the plate during the conversation. And in the same way involves the sort of modern hospitality. It just became a lot more personal.
I love this idea. Oh, for sure. Like, I think the person really experiences the culinary experience in such a different and unique way, right? Because you actually have a real connection to the person cooking the food. You hear the story. You don't just hear the story, but you feel the story in all of your senses.
It's all about emotions.
Yeah, exactly.
And emotions is something what we don't forget. We may forget technique. We may forget produce, what was on the plate, but how we felt will always stay with us.
Absolutely. And just out of curiosity, what has been a really good story that you've recently eaten?
A story that I've recently eaten.
Eaten, yeah, like a good, like a dining experience, you know?
I think as we've just shared earlier, so my wife and we dine at home more than ever before.
Uh-huh.
I don't know if it comes with age or if it's just this involvement, but we've recently started to dine at home a lot more and essentially cook our own, make our own bread, make our own kombuchas, and essentially like enjoying to create things from scratch. So I do have to dig deeper in terms of great experiences. One of the top for this year would, a part of dining at home, where majority, because Gigi is from Mexico,
Yes.
is a Mexican inspired cuisine. So we'll have all her beautiful plant-based dishes. Other than that, it was probably having the privilege being hosting the Czech ambassador to Southeast Asia at Bus Kitchen. So one of our newest concept, Bus Kitchen by Aitor. So we were on the kitchen counter, essentially having this interaction on an event where we brought in a Czech Michelin chef, Oldřej Sahadák, from La Dégustation Bohème, which is a concept of Czech cuisine from 200 years ago, done with modern French techniques.
Wow.
So there is this paying respect to heritage, but done in a modern way. And essentially we brought him for four hands collaboration, 1 week long event. And for that, I invited our ambassador to Indonesia, Malaysia, and Singapore. And then essentially with him having these two amazing talented chefs, Chef Aitor, Chef Sahadák, the ambassador of Czech Republic, and myself
in Singapore,
sitting, and then in Singapore, and having this over meal, cultural, personal experience to each of the chefs on the plate. That is difficult one to tap up, to beat, because it was just so much going on emotionally, flavor wise, as well as memories for me, and then the guest of honor. So it was a great experience. I would say that was definitely 2019 highlight so far.
It sounds amazing. It's like you just brought everything together and everything kind of fit. It's like creating this giant, massive jigsaw puzzle where you have all these moving pieces that just kind of interconnect. And
correct,
mate, it's just so perfect. Man.
Thank you.
So another question I've been meaning to ask you is, what does the word service mean to you?
For me, service is about sharing your best effort in hospitality. And hospitality, I don't mean necessarily interaction or the transaction between guests and our restaurants, but personally, to me, service is giving your best effort to meet agenda of your audience, and that can be your friend, that can be your family, that can be someone you're helping in need, or it can be the guests in a restaurant. I mean, for me, restaurants have been, or food and beverage in general, hospitality, have been a passion and mission of life. So generally, it comes very natural, but it can happen on a random encounter on a street. Someone drops a handbag. It's just this gesture of showing your best effort, what you can do to help someone. I'm just lucky enough to be in industry that is all around service. So it helps me to be doing something that I believe in as well. And then I'll bring that to my day-to-day life as well. So I hope I answered your question.
Yes,
because
I think that's perfect.
It's quite a wide question, and I could talk about it very widely. I'm not sure whether I'm hitting your objective.
No, but that's perfect. It's something that's not really always about just hitting the objective. It's about, I like being a little bit abstract and putting points out there and seeing how you decide to consume it and put it out in your own way. It's always fascinating how different people think, and I love watching that process come out.
Beautiful.
Yeah. Another question I wanted to ask you was, if a successful restaurant was a dish, what do you think are the key ingredients that make it? From your personal experience.
Okay. again, I'll answer it in two parts. So
Okay.
one is, or not two parts, but I would say, let me put some terms and conditions first.
Please.
I think there is no one size fit all to answer sort of, or to put successful restaurants per se, because objective for one operator may be just getting awards, just hitting 3 stars on the Michelin scale, where that means, you know, heavy involvement of discipline, financial resources, and a lot of creativity in interior design, cuisine, and so on. Other restaurant may be more of a profit margin oriented. So it will really depend on what the project is. To however answer your question, or to tell you more for me personally what it is, and projects that I like to participate on, is to meet 3 things. So on that plate, I would like to see happy face of a team member, and be it chef, service, all of them. That will naturally lead to happy face of the guests looking at the plate, and then that will naturally translate in 99.9% instances to happy shareholder, because there'll be more happy guests, and there'll be more revenue flow coming in, and there'll be more profit margins to the shareholders. So, and in same scale of importance, the team first.
Yes.
Guests number 2. The owners, that's just natural result of the first 2 meeting. Done.
I love it. I love it. It's perfect. And it's so interesting, but the more people I talk to, it doesn't matter if they're bartender, chef, service, or they're doing wine. Everyone says the same thing. It's always about the customer experiences, right? And how can you create something that's really memorable, give really good service, and make them really happy? Because if you take care of your customers, everything else kind of takes care of itself almost. That's what I feel.
Correct. Well, what I would add to it is, absolutely take care of your customers, but from operator's perspective or owner's perspective, you need to take care of the team in order to be able, who will then take care of your guests. So if the team is given the resources, environment, and essentially the mission, and they live that mission, and they are given the resources, and they looked after, they will then do their job. And I've seen many operators to know that the client is important, but forget that actually that's step 2. Step 1 is the team. So they will produce beautiful SOPs. They'll produce beautiful guideline for the team. Okay, guys, this is what you need to do. Sure, but have we looked after the team to then look after the guests?
Exactly.
And I think companies like Four Seasons or Ritz-Carlton's, they got it right. They do their first bit on the team, and then ensure that this translates to the service.
I have to say, from my first-hand experience from all the restaurants, I saw it predominantly, especially when Cheek by Jowl was around. Anytime I would visit them, doesn't matter when I would go, I have never seen such a happy kitchen and service team. And it was actually one of the first few times where I saw both kitchen and service eating together with Rishi and Manuela. It was just such a, you felt the warmth. And I think that was one of the big reasons why they did so well for so long. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely.
And do you have another about 5-10 minutes, or I want to be as respectful of your time as I can?
I'm good.
Okay.
Go.
So just a few more questions. What's been your toughest challenge in the last 6 months, and how did you go about overcoming it?
Toughest challenge. So few. We've had few venues that have not had a great start of the year, and obviously there comes point of time where we have few options to consider in order to support a revenue flow, and obviously everyone in Singapore is having challenging year. However, I think few that sort of understand the curve of sort of supply and demand. There's more and more restaurants opening, and there is this tendency, and we all have it. That's a natural human behavior, to then jump to quick conclusions and sort of activate campaigns that may temporarily drive volume. It could be very popular in Singapore is 1-for-1 promotions, or even credit card discounts. And we were on sort of a verge for one particular restaurant to activate these campaigns, and we were contemplating with the idea, and actually went off with few general campaigns ahead. But very quickly we realized that while that is temporarily bringing some additional guests, but we realized that these guests are not understanding exactly what the concept is all about, and are not either prepared to pay the full price for it. And the only reason they're coming to the venue is because of the immediate discount, which means only one thing, that they will not come back unless they are given again the discount in the future. So actually we're not really supporting the business in the long term, and only fixing the temporary issue for the sake of show our shareholders that there is actually transaction picking up. But instead, we've very quickly stopped those campaigns and said, let's wait what the second half of the year is going to bring. We've managed then our shareholders to say, give us 2 or 3 more months to see how is the business gonna pick up. We just need to stay on course of the concept that we've all agreed on, even though it is not generating the expected results now. So we did, and then it happened so that the actual concept in question has received awards that sort of help to reinforce that the concept is worth the price, the original price that is set. And we've basically, from that point, we've signed off from all other campaigns, and then showed to investors that there is actually worth waiting for certain restaurants to give a little bit longer runway in order to pick up the organic audience, as opposed to relying on short-term partnerships.
Yeah, it doesn't work just putting a Band-Aid.
Correct. Yeah. So it's always, and it's part of my job to manage expectations of the team, of the chef, but also of the shareholders,
of course,
which is not necessarily always aligned, but that it comes with the job. But in this case, it wasn't easy to initially to implement those campaigns, and also it wasn't then easy to take the risk and take some of them out. But it has fortunately worked out. What I say that helped me is to bring into the decision making everybody to one table and discuss, okay, this is an issue we have. What does everybody think about it? And really by bringing that issue on a table with everyone from chef, manager, and even bringing into the conversation our managing director, helped to align the expectation and helped to come up with a solution of, okay, let's test the waters and sign off few, see where we go. And then essentially, getting recognition helped to propel the business. And basically now it's just a matter of steering the demand and maximizing on what we can, but respecting the concept that we've originally set up.
You're keeping the integrity of it, right? I think if you start giving one-for-one promotions and discounts like that, you just kind of dilute your brand, and you're never going to get it back again.
Absolutely.
Yeah. And you said something really interesting that I feel could help a lot of people, which is shareholders. It's a big, heavy topic for a lot of us sometimes when we have someone to report to. How do you manage expectations for shareholders like that when they're being, let's say, challenging? Do you have any advice?
One thing that one of my former GM, when I worked for Hilton, told me is when you talk to sort of either owners or sort of regional bosses, always under promise and then over deliver. So in other words, there is a tendency for all of us to always say, oh yeah, it's going to be better and we're going to hit this. And you kind of buy yourself time, but it's the same as those campaigns. You buy yourself time, but it's gonna catch up with you. So instead of saying you're gonna hit 200,000, take it down notch. Bring it down maybe 10, maybe 15%, knowing that you can still hit the 200,000, but rather over deliver of what you've set originally. And it, first of all, it buys you sort of organic respect. And in the future, they'll take your word for it, because you've shown once, you've showed twice. And if you did it 3 times, then next time, well, let's ask Stepan, and if he thinks we will make it, we will, if not more, because that's what the history has shown us. So under promising is such a great tool, by the way, in personal life as well, right?
Absolutely.
It's easier said than done, but if we really keep reminding ourselves during those conversations and transactions to like keep the expectations low and then hit the sweet spot later, it will just make things easier in the future.
That's perfect. I'm just going to have a quick look and see if just one last question, if you don't mind, about this whole topic.
Sure.
Yeah, it's actually, what do you think the future looks for sustainable eating and vegan dining in the restaurant business? Because I know you and Gigi are big proponents of the vegan diet.
I thought you never asked.
Yes, saving the best for last.
We are up for another 60 minutes conversation. No,
we'll keep it short, mate. Yeah,
I'll do a short version.
Yeah.
So, first of all, let me just zoom out from myself or Gigi. We are on the sort of edge with people like Greta Thunberg, Arnold Schwarzenegger, movies like Forks Over Knives, Game Changers, that just came out, by the way.
Yeah.
We are on an edge where we have a chance to really let our planet to replenish itself, take a little break from that industrial revolution, from that overuse and consumption, and oversupply of resources that actually we don't really need. And it translates to all industries across the board, and hospitality, especially food and beverage, is not a sector, is not an exception. And you have current players, the big guys like Nestle and Danone, are opening new departments called the plant-based departments, are hiring vice presidents for all their continents, only working for plant-based sectors. You have new guys on the block, Beyond Burgers, Impossible Burgers, with some of the richest people on planet investing in these companies. What does that tell you? This is going to go only one way. Generations of millennials, they have 3 things. They want authenticity, so we got to be true, and it cannot be gimmicky. They want unique experiences, again, relatively easy done. But they also want one last thing, which is all these big players have picked up on, which is ethical responsibility. Yes. And that can be environment, animal protection, or just veganism. It doesn't matter what it is. People are more and more aware how you do business. So Noma, Chef René Redzepi, going introduction of full tasting menu, entirely plant-based. You have Alain Ducasse, who's been actually for the past 15 years already having degustation menu fully plant-based as an option. Of course, he's got his traditional items as well, but he has this option. You have top Michelin 3-star chefs, as well as your local cafes becoming vegan. To that, you have these global corporations going plant-based. So it's the only way, if we're gonna be talking about sustainability, to really pick up on. I mean, meat in F&B will stay around and will be around for some time. And there's a difference between a local sort of supply demand of meat products, and there is difference between this factory mass production cutting of the Amazon forest that was just in the news recently for animal feed. So of course that has a huge impact on the planet and on this new generation coming up. And so that's not a question. It will be scaled down. There's no question about it. And people will be more interested in their health as well as the other ethical elements of dining out. And I think the sooner operators will jump on it, the more sustainable in terms of both environmentally, but also in terms of business, they'll be for the rest of 21st century, because we're going to see a lot more of this. Wow. I could add on some technical, less sort of broad, that we seeing, and there's not a week passing by where I'm not contacted by vendor of some sorts offering me consolidation of data about our guests through Wi-Fi connections, through reservation bookings, and so on. So we're gonna see a lot more of that synchronization and personalization service. So I know who guest has just walked in, the GM getting a notification, how many times he's been around, how many guests on average he has, what kind of wine he likes, what's the average spend. So it's going to be a lot more seamless. We're going to be working with a lot more data for both the benefit of the guest, but also obviously there's going to be this question about privacy. So I think we'll see that.
Wow, that's amazing. It's nice to hear that. It's amazing. Even in a country like Kosovo, I see a lot of vegan restaurants starting to pop up. And if you've ever been to Berlin, it's just, you go to the supermarket and there's a giant wall of like 20 different vegan, vegetarian options, and in every way you can imagine. I love it. Yeah.
Amazing.
Yeah. Wonderful, Stepan. I just want to say thank you very, 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 very much for being on the show today. And how can people reach you or find you?
So I'm probably the last person not on Facebook in Singapore. Great. So not there.
Okay.
I have Instagram account. Just my name, Stepan Marhoul. I have LinkedIn, same, Stepan Marhoul. And if someone is interested into more of a plant-based as well as detox of their household, then that's what Gigi does.
Okay.
They can connect with her on Facebook on a plant-based collection, or aromatics collection on Instagram.
Beautiful. Well. I'm going to get all the links from you and put it down at the bottom.
I'll send it to you easier.
Lovely. And one last question, if you don't mind, just to push it. If you could send a message out to millions of people, what would it be?
Stay healthy, stay happy.
Yes.
And eat plants.
I love it. Thank you very much, Stepan. Everybody, this is Stepan Marhoul. Check out this video, like it, share it, and subscribe. And I look forward to hosting you on our next episode.
Thank you. Thank you. Thanks for having me. Take care, guys. Bye.